Shema, Shema. Shema, Shema, Shema. Shema Israel. Shema Israel. Oh, Shema, Shema, Shema. Shema, Shema, Shema. Shema Israel. Shema Israel. Oh, Shema Israel. Yahuwah. Shema, Shema, Shema. Shema Israel. Shema Israel. Shema, Shema, Shema. Shema, Shema, Shema. Shema Israel. Shema Israel. Yahuwah Elohim. Important to the body. You have Israelites and Christians that are fighting, and they're fighting over the law, right?
Yeah.
You have Israelites who don't believe in Paul's writings because they think Paul is teaching against the law.
Yeah. Don't understand.
You have Christians who put Paul's letters over Hamashiach, because they think that Paul is teaching in his letters that we're not under the law. So this confusion about the law is going to be an eye-opener with this lesson. But the written tradition is broken down into three divisions. The oral tradition is broken down into two divisions, which is the Mishnah, a collection of oral laws, in 6 divisions. The Gemara is broken down into the Aramaic commentary on the Mishnah showing its scriptural basis. The Torah, the Talmud, the Torah, a tradition explaining the written Torah and how to interpret it and apply the laws. Orthodox Jews believe God taught the Torah to Moses, and he taught it to others, down to the present day. This tradition was maintained in oral form only until about the 2nd century CE, when the oral law was compiled and written down in a document called the Mishnah. The Oral Torah. So here is the Oral Torah's authority and foundation. Now I need somebody who has a King James translation.
And the word of God reads, "And Moses went out and told the people the words of the Lord, and gathered the 70 men of the elders of the people, and set them round about the tabernacle. And the Lord came down in a cloud, and spake unto him, and took up the spirit that was upon him, and gave it unto the 70 elders. And it came to pass that, when the spirit rested upon them, they prophesied and did not cease."
Okay, so it said, and they prophesied and did not cease. That's what the KJV says, right? Remember, I've been teaching y'all about make sure that you check the other translations, because the KJV, which is from the Masoretic text, the Masoretic text may have left something off. Okay? Listen to what the New Living Translation has to say about Numbers 11:24 through 25. So Moses went out and reported the Lord's words to the people. He gathered the 70 elders and stationed them around the tabernacle. And the Lord came down in a cloud and spoke to Moses. Then he gave the 70 elders the same spirit that he pours upon Moses. And when the spirit rested upon them, they prophesied. but this never happened again. Now notice in the New Living Translation, it says that it never happened again. And the KJV says, what it says?
It said they prophesied and did not cease.
And did not cease. So the authority in which the oratory is established is based upon this verse, because they say that the Most High didn't give Moses everything. He also gave the elders the authority or that Moses had, in which in time the elders, in which they taught that the elders' wisdom has superseded Moses. So he says, write all these instructions down, for they represent the terms of the covenant I am making with you and Israel. Verse 28. Moses remained there on the mountain with the Lord 40 days and 40 nights. Sound familiar, right? And all that time he ate no bread and drank no water. Sound familiar, right?
Wow.
He said, Moses, I'm going to raise up a prophet like you unto Israel. And the Lord wrote, or Elohim wrote, the term of the covenant, the 10 commandments, on stone tablets. Now remember, y'all, last week we did the lesson, or the week before, showing how the Most High wrote the 10. But then he started speaking to Israel, and Israel said, we don't want to hear your voice. We don't want to hear his voice. You talk to us, Moses. So from that point on, every word that the Most High spoke to Moses, he gave to Israel. Took upon him, listen to what Hyrcanus did, the governor, took upon him to compel those Idumeans either to become Jews or to leave the country. So even the governor said, look, for y'all who bucking and don't want to become an Israelite and live the ways and accept the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, leave the country. Go wherever you're going to go. But everybody here, no matter what nation you are, you're going to live according to the laws of the Most High. He said he compelled those Idumeans to either become Jews or leave the country. Deserves great consideration. I suppose it was because they had long ago been driven out of the land of Edom and had seized on and possessed the tribe of Simeon and all the southern parts of the tribe of Judah, which was the peculiar inheritance of the worshipers of the true God without idolatry. So what happened to these Idumeans when they became Israelites? After the Babylonian captivity, all of a sudden you find a sect known as the Pharisees and the Sadducees pop up. Before the Babylonian captivity, you hear nothing about Pharisees and Sadducees. You heard it was Levites.
That's right.
And you can only be a Levite according to the bloodline.
That's right.
So we're going to preserve the Torah. And they created a group called the Pharisees and the Sadducees, which it wasn't by tribe. That's why Paul can be a Benjamite and be known as a Pharisee, teaching and touching the law blameless. Right? So what did they start doing? These Pharisees. The people were sinning. They got tired of going into captivity. So the Pharisees and Sadducees said, you know what? We're going to build fences around the law. We're going to build fences to prevent the people from sinning, because the written law ain't working. So now we're going to get the elders and we're going to take numbers, and we're going to use numbers as the basis to give the elders authority. They start building fences. Mark chapter number 7, 1 through 9, amplified. Mark 7, 1 through 9. Now the Pharisees and some of the scribes came from Jerusalem and gathered around him. And they had seen that some of his disciples ate their bread with ceremonially impure hands. That is, unwashed and defiled according to Jewish religious rituals. You ain't going to find nowhere in Torah, in the written law, that you got to wash your hands before you eat. It sounds good. It's a good principle. You know, the saying that we thought for years was Bible that wasn't, cleanliness is next to godliness. You heard that, but I couldn't find a scripture for that. Verse 3. For the Pharisees and all the Jews do not eat unless they carefully wash their hands, holding firmly to the tradition of their elders. Not Moses, not the tradition of Yah, not the tradition of the written law, but the tradition of the elders. And when they come from the marketplace, they do not eat unless they cleanse themselves completely according to the ritual. These mothers were so doggone tactful and so germaphobe that they were literally, before they shook your hand, before they accepted anything from you, they looking under your nails, they checking everything, because they believe if your hand's dirty and your nails dirty, that if you touch whatever I'm getting, I'm going to be dirty. Which means if you sinful and you touch a bag and I touch it, I done committed sin. Look at what it says. And there are many other things, oral, man-made laws and traditions handed down to them, which they follow diligently, such as the washing of cups and pitchers and copper utensils. Show you, this is when Yeshua fight begins. He's the walking word, he's the walking Torah. And they trying to tell him, well, you gotta wash your hands. Why your disciples, and not only that, this is how bad it was. They were eating their bread. Don't eat my stuff and don't wash your hands. But look what he says. So the Pharisees and scribes asked Yeshua, or Jesus, why do your disciples not live their lives according to the tradition of the elders, but instead eat their bread with ceremonially unwashed hands? Yeshua replied, rightly did Isaiah prophesy about you hypocrites, playing actors and pretenders. As it is written in the scriptures, these people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. So if your heart is far from you, the Most High can't do no surgery on your heart. That's right. You got a stony heart. Not only that, you come into the written Torah telling him about some traditions of your forefathers. They put the elders above Moses. Look at this here, verse number 7. They worship me in vain. Their worship is meaningless and worthless. A pretense, teaching the precepts of men as doctrines, giving their traditions equal weight with the scriptures. Look at what it says, verse number 8. You disregard and neglect the commandments of God and cling faithfully to the traditions of men. He was also saying to them, you are experts at setting aside and nullifying the commandment of God in order to keep your man-made traditions and regulations. They weren't keeping Torah. They was keeping their traditions. Acts 13, 26 through 28.
Men and brethren, children of the stock of Abraham.
Come on.
And whosoever among you fear Yah.
Yeah.
To you is the word of this salvation sent.
Now he's talking to them who fear the Most High. Listen to what he says. Come on.
For they that dwell in Jerusalem.
For they that dwell at Jerusalem. Come on.
And their rulers.
And their rulers. They elders, they Pharisees, they Sadducees, the Sanhedrin council, all of them. Come on.
Because they knew him not.
They didn't know him. Come on.
Nor yet the voices of the prophets.
They didn't know the Torah, nor they didn't know the Tanakh. I told you they didn't know any of that. They knew the traditions of the elders. Come on.
Which are read every Sabbath day.
They in the temple and still is not teaching the people what thus say Yah to Moses. They teaching what thus say the elders. Come on.
They have fulfilled them in condemning him. And though they found no cause of death in him,
he ain't violate Torah. Come on.
Yet desired they Pilate that he should be slain.
So look what it says. In verse number 27, it says, they have fulfilled them in condemning him. Every Sabbath day they in the temple, and yet they ain't teaching the people nothing what the Most High said. The Mishnah. All right? I'm going to read this real quick. This is very important. I got to read this, y'all. It's very important. The Mishnah. Yadim, this one. This is what they were trying to hold Yeshua to. Okay? It says here, A minimum of quarter of a log of water must be poured over the hands for one person, and even for two. A minimum of a half of a log must be poured over the hands for 3 or 4 persons. A minimum of 1 log is sufficient for 5, 10, or 100 persons. Rabbi Dosa says, as long as there is not less than a quarter of a log left for the last person among them, more water may be added to the second water, but more may not be added to the first water. Water may be poured over the hands out of any kind of vessel, even out of a vessel made of animal dung, out of the vessels made of stone, or out of vessels made of clay. Water may not be poured from the side of a broken vessel, or from the bottom of a ladle, or from the stopper of a jar.
Wow.
Nor may one pour water over the hands of his fellow out of his cup hands, because one may not draw, nor sanctify, nor sprinkle the water of purification, nor pour water over the hands except in a vessel, and only vessels closely covered with a lid protect their contents from uncleanness, and only vessels protect their contents from uncleanness inside an earthen vessel. Now look at this. I want y'all to pay attention to this. So they turned around and took the washing of hands, right? You go into the Talmud, it's about 1,000 laws on washing hands. How in the world can you keep that? See, when these people start talking, well, you can't keep the Torah, you can't keep it. They don't understand that the Torah is simple, the 613 is simple. What they talking about is the Talmud that they never read.